In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this adorable teddy bear cake topper. Hi, it's Karolyn. I'm a professional cake decorator, and on this channel, I share my tips and tricks and ways that I bake and decorate cakes to help you along your journey. So if you'd like to join me, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you can get notified whenever I release a new video. This week, I am making one of my popular designs, a teddy bear bubble cake, and I will put it over here. I actually have a video on how I make the bubbles and how I do the textured buttercream, which I can also link below. But the last time that I posted this, somebody asked me to film how I make the teddy bear, and you ask and it is given. So I am going to show you how I do that. The teddy bear is made out of Rice Krispie treats and covered in buttercream. It's a pretty simple-ish technique and doesn't take too long to make. And also, I just want to make a note. I'm going to separate this in chapters so you can jump around, look on the bar and jump around to different parts of the video if you'd like. It makes it a little easier to find different parts of the video. And all the tools that I use, everything that I use in the video will be listed in the description below. And just a reminder that my birthday cake design blueprint is also listed in the description. So let's get into the video. All right, to start, I'm going to make the Rice Krispie treats. I have a glass bowl, a bag of marshmallows, and some Rice Krispies, which is not Rice Krispies. It's Scrunchy Crispy Rice, but whatever brand you want to use. Okay, now this is what I'll say. Every box of this rice cereal tells you how to make Rice Krispies. Oh my gosh, wait, this one doesn't. So much for my theory. However, you can Google it. If you want an exact recipe, I don't use butter whenever I'm doing Rice Krispies for cakes, okay? I just do marshmallows and Rice Krispies. If you need a recipe to follow, Google a recipe. I eyeball it and I will show you why. Well, actually, I'll tell you why. It saves a lot of time. So I'm actually making the teddy bear and I'm doing a hat, a cowboy hat. So I'll be making a lot of Rice Krispies, so I'm going to use the whole bag. This is a 10-ounce bag. And I prefer to use the bigger marshmallows. You can use mini ones, but I just use the bigger ones. So I'm not going to add any water or anything to this. I'm going to pop it in the microwave for about 90 seconds and melt the marshmallows. Oh, crap. I am a moron. Okay, before you do that, you have to grease the bowl. That wouldn't be good. They would have been sticking. So I have some shortening and a paper towel. And just get some shortening on the paper towel and wipe it all in the bowl. This way the marshmallows won't stick. Duh. And now I can put the marshmallows in the bowl. Pop it in the microwave for 90 seconds. All right, I like to do this part in the sink because Rice Krispies get everywhere. So this is melted after being in the microwave for 90 seconds. I'm just gonna stir it a little bit. Anyone else hate the sound of like melted marshmallows mixing? Blech. So anyway, back to the Scrunchy Crispy Rice. I'm going to add, you have to find the perfect marshmallow to crispy rice ratio. So I'm going to start, so that was 10 ounces of marshmallows, and I'm just going to pour a bunch of Krispies in. So that was about 2 cups, that's about 3 cups of Rice Krispies. It's not exact. I'm going to mix it around and see what I get. All right, now you could look at that. Way too marshmallowy. You need more Krispies in there. It's not even going to hold its shape. It's going to fall apart. So I'm going to add another 1-2 cups of Rice Krispies and mix. Good, and that's a good consistency. It's a lot better to add a little at a time because if you add too much, then it's harder to add more melted marshmallows to bring it together. All right, now my hands are clean and I have some shortening here and cornstarch. Why couldn't I think of what that was? I'm putting this on top of a 6-inch cake. So I have a 6-inch cake pan here so I can make sure that I am making it the correct size. Get a little bit of Crisco on my hands and on the counter. This is going to get a little messy. And on the bottom of the cake pan too. Now I need to make the body and the head. Scooping out a bunch of the Krispies. And I'm going to just start rolling it together to try to compress it. The marshmallow mixture is still warm, so it's not going to hold its shape. So it's going to be very moldable and pliable right now. So I have it like in a little ball. And now I want to make it kind of like a cone shape. So I'm going to put it down and run my hands this way, building the body. And then I like to smack the bottom on the countertop a few times just to really flatten it out. So I'm cupping it here and smack it down. This guy is going to need arms and feet. And I feel like this is just a little bit on the big side, so I'm going to remove some. And if yours is too small, you'll just take a little bit more and add it to the piece. So I'm just going to do the same thing a couple times or whatever until I get it to the right size. So again, compressing it into a little ball, rolling it into a cone, smacking it on the countertop and measuring it. There. I feel like that's a little bit better. It wasn't a big difference, but it's just going to be better proportioned to the size of the cake. Since these marshmallows are still warm, it may settle a little bit. So I'm going to give it about 15 minutes and then come back and reshape it. I like to set these aside on cutting boards, put a little bit of cornstarch down, not powdered sugar. Powdered sugar will make everything sticky. And a little bit of cornstarch so this doesn't stick to the cutting board. Set it aside and let's do the head. So to do the head, same thing, we're getting a little bit, compressing it into a tight ball. This time it has to be round, we're not going to flatten it out because it's his head, obviously. So really pushing everything together. And now to check the size of this, I want to put him on top of here and make sure his head isn't huge compared to his body, right? So you could see this is already starting to settle a little bit. When that happens, take it off and just build the shape back up. And then check the size again. And that looks good. So do you see how the head is smaller than the body, but still big enough to be like a teddy bear? You don't want it to be too tiny because then it's going to look weird. So you just have to mess around with the proportions. Proportions, that's the right word, right? So now, setting these aside, just going to be out at room temperature. They're not going to go in the refrigerator. And I'm going to keep an eye on it. As they settle, I'm going to come back and re-roll them and reshape them. And once the marshmallows dry, I'm just not going to touch them. So I'm going to let this sit out overnight. All right, I'm going to start out with a little bit of marshmallow fondant that is tan. And to get the tan, I add a little bit of brown and then a teeny bit of green to cancel out the pink hue and the brown, and a teeny bit of yellow to warm the color up. I'll show you again when, I'll show you mixing the colors when I am making the buttercream fur. So this is marshmallow fondant. I have a video on how I make that. I will link that below. And I added some Tylose powder to the marshmallow fondant so it will hold its shape. The Tylose is going to help it not be so soft. It's going to make it so much easier to work with. I already added it here, but what I would do is just on this much, sprinkle just a little bit on. I'm going to take it off since I already added it. Sprinkle a little bit on and knead it together. And then you want to let it sit for 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so, just so it can start, the Tylose powder can start working. You can't just add Tylose powder to fondant and then work with it right away. It needs time to start working. So with this fondant here, we're going to make the legs and the arms and the ears. And then I went ahead and rolled out really light tan fondant, which is basically this with a little bit of white fondant added, and I kneaded it together. So it's a teeny bit amount of brown, a little bit of green, a little bit of yellow. It's just like a little bit of all those colors. And I mixed it with Tylose and I rolled it out, you know, pretty thin, not super thin, but pretty thin. And this is going to be the belly and the inside of the ears. All right, I know I said I was going to let these sit overnight, but this has cooled. It's holding its shape. And if you can see, it did sink a little bit when it was drying or when it was cooling. So what I could do is just reshape it by doing the same thing that I did before. Rolling it in my hands and just trying to get it back to that shape that it was in. See, this bottom part is flat. Luckily, we are covering this with buttercream and it's not going to be a big deal. So that's why this bear is so easy to make, because it doesn't have to be perfect and it still looks good. So I'm just rolling this to get it back to the right shape. I like to have all the pieces made, the eyes, nose, mouth, belly, ears, arms and feet, legs and feet. I like to have them all made before I start to assemble this, because I can stick these to the buttercream while it's still wet and it'll really hold it. So let's start with the legs first. I'm keeping this here for size reference. You can actually stick a toothpick in here to make it stay and not fall, but I don't think I need it right now. Again, I'm doing this on a 6-inch cake. So I want to put it on a 6-inch cake pan to make sure that I am doing the right size. I hope I can explain this. So to make the legs, I'm going to need a pizza cutter. And I like to start with a good size chunk. That way I can cut some of it off. And just roll it into a ball. And then I roll one end into a point, kind of like we did with this bottom part. I'm just rolling it into something that looks like this, all right? Then I have to form the foot. So I'm squeezing the top part here to kind of push this part down, and put this down on the board, on the table or whatever, the countertop, and push this down. So I'm forming what kind of looks like a little foot, right? And this looks a little wide and flat here, so I'm just going to roll it to make it look a little better. So, feet have arches to it. So the foot that's going to be on this side, the arch is going to be on the inside. So I'm just going to push this side in just a little bit. Right, and just make it look a little more authentic. It is going to be covered in buttercream. This is why it's nice that it does not have to be perfect. Now, this part back here can be cut. So I'm going to put this against here. And do you see how I have the feet just kind of sticking out to the side? So I'm going to find the front is going to be right here. And I'm going to push this against the cake. I'm sorry, push this against the little dude. And I can actually trim off some of this. This is a little long. So what I'm going to do, this is the inside of the leg. I'm going to start at the very top and cut down to the inside of the leg. That'll trim it and makes a nice sharp edge for it to go against the cake. Putting it against the side of the, I'm sorry, I say cake, but it's Rice Krispies. And it's going to look weird right now. It'll look so much better when it's all together. So there's the left foot. And now I want to try to do the same thing for the right one. Try to make it the same size. That's the most challenging part. And you got to eyeball it. So again, I'm grabbing another piece of fondant, roll it into a ball. Roll it one end into not a point, but just make it slimmer on one end. Pinch up the toes, flatten the bottom of the foot, roll out the leg, and then push in the arch of the foot on this side. Put it against the side of the Rice Krispies. It's really long, so again, I'm going to cut it by starting on the outside and cutting down to the inside. Making a nice little angle. It's nice and flat here, and it's going to go right against that. And they look pretty similar in size. When the buttercream's on the cake, I'm really going to squeeze these in, and it's going to really sit nice and flush against this piece. So just looking at it, making sure that the feet look pretty similar. Again, this is going to be covered in buttercream fur, so you can see the texture that I have on here. It really, it's so awesome because it just covers up any mistakes that you may have made. Now for the arms, I need smaller pieces. And same thing, I'm gonna roll it into a ball and then roll it out like we did before. Now this time, I wanna roll it pretty thin. So I want this is gonna be the arm and the hand. So I'm gonna flatten this top part and put it on here. See, that's a little too big. This part's a little thick. So I'm gonna roll it out a little more. Get it a little thinner, put it down in the middle. Good. So now you can see here is where I want the arm to stop, right here. So I'm going to just make a mental note. I'm grabbing it right here. This is where I want the arm to end, so I'm cutting this piece off. And now to make this sit flush against the side, again, put it down. This is the inside of the arm. Start on the outside, cut on an angle down to the inside. Gives you a nice sharp point. Makes it flush with the piece, and good. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you see how I have his arms coming forward? That's what we're doing. Same thing on the other side. Trying not to make the hand part too big. So squeezing it down, roll it out, right? Get it to the right shape, put it against the piece. Go up to where you want it to end and just hold your fingers there so you can cut the piece off. And then again, this is the inside of the arm. So I'm going to start on the outside and cut on an angle to the inside, just cutting that piece off, not going all the way down to the hand. So I have a nice flat part to put against the side. And there's his little arms. All right, so now I can take all of these off, set these aside. Just keeping a mental note, I'm gonna put the left arm on the left side of this cutting board and the left leg, just so I don't get anything mixed up. Right leg. And right arm. Now I want to make the ears, so I'm kneading this together and I'm going to roll it out about 1/2 inch thick. So you can see how thick it is. All right, I have these circle cutters. I will link these below. And I just want to hold the cutters up here to see how big I want the ears to be. So is that going to be big enough? I think that will. This next one up, I think it might be too big. I don't know, actually. It's better to start big and then cut smaller. So I'm going to cut. That actually looks like it's going to be good. So this ended up being the 4th circle, but it's going to depend on how big that you make your piece, what size ears you're going to make it. So you just have to kind of do what I'm doing, hold them up, make sure it's going to look okay. I don't put just circles on the top here. It's a flat edge so it can sit flush against the head. And what I like to do is take a bigger circle. This has probably the same angle, if you will, that I can just cut 2 pieces off of the bottom. So I'm just bringing this up just a little bit and cutting this bottom piece off. So that way it's going to sit on top of the head much better. And then just try to do the same thing on the other one. So now holding these up, perfect. Now I want to cut the little inner pieces and the belly. So now I have these circle cutters. This one is way too big. So just find the one that fits the belly the best. And I think this one looks pretty good. I mean, it all depends on how big you want it. Maybe you want it a little smaller, and that's fine. I'm still going to do it a little bigger like in this picture. And I'm going to go to my thin fondant and just cut a circle out. Smoothing out the cuts, because this is not going to get covered in buttercream. And hold it up against the side. Now, when I did this one, I lengthened the circle so it's more like an oval. So I kind of just pulled this apart to make it a little longer and more ovally, if you will. And that looks really good. I'm going to set that on the board. And now I want to cut the middle part of the ears. So if you could see, the light part of the ears is smaller than the circle that I used. So for this, I used the 4th circle. So to make the inner part of the ears, I want to use the 2nd circle. So cutting out 2 of these. And that looks good. I'll take the bigger cutter and just cut this bottom piece off. So this sits flush with this, right? And I'm not going to glue these on yet. The buttercream is actually going to glue it on. You'll see what I mean. So do the same thing, just cutting a tiny bit off the bottom. So now I have the ears and the inner part of the ears as well. So I'm going to set these aside. Now I want to do the little mouth part, not the eyes and the nose yet, just that little snout. It's a snout, right? So cutting off a piece of this. And I have to pop this back in the microwave because it's a little too dry to work with right now. So I'm going to put it in the microwave for about 5 seconds. Much better. It's more pliable. All right. So this piece that I broke off is way too big. So I'm trying to get it to be a good proportion to the face. So I can probably tear this in half. I'm going to roll it into a ball. Once it's in a ball, I'm going to flatten it and then pull out both sides. And I'm trying to lengthen it to kind of make it more of an oval. Now I'm just pinching down the sides to kind of flatten it a little bit so it's going to sit against the piece a lot better. See how the sides I pinched in and they're flat? So when I put it against here, it'll be flatter against the piece. It's not just going to stick out. Now I want to make the little happy face. So you can see the nose is going to cover this line here, but the line down here, I'm making it an even space between the bottom part, and I just make it curl up a little bit. So I'm just going to, this is a Dresden tool. It's my favorite tool. I can find a similar one and link it below. It curves up on the end. This end is pointier. This end is a little flatter. And I'm going to use the pointier end and just draw the lines on here. So I'm going to start in the middle and make the line down from the top. And I'm going to come almost all the way to the bottom and try to make that center. Now I want to draw the little smile. So I want to make it equidistant from the bottom. I don't want to start here and come down close to the edge. I want to stay the same distance from the edge and just come part way up. So I'm going to start in the middle and just lightly press a line down. And then start in the middle and do the same thing on the other side. And here I just want to make these two lines connect. So now I have the part for the smiley face, and now before we add the buttercream, I just want to do the eyes and the nose. So I'm going to get some black fondant, pop it in the microwave for about 10 seconds to make it pliable, and then make the eyes and the nose. All right, this black fondant is pretty soft, so I just want to add some Tylose to it. All right, and I just want to set this down for about 10-15 minutes so the Tylose can start working. And while I'm doing that, I will color the buttercream. Here I have some American buttercream. I have a video on how I make this, and I can link that below. It's better to have too much than too little. So this is about a cup of buttercream. Now I want to try to make it this color. So this is pretty warm. So it looks like it has a little more yellow. So I always tell people when they want the exact same cake that I made, it's so hard to match the colors exactly. I'll get it close, but it's hard to match it exactly. So I'm going to start with some brown. 3 drops of brown With the green, I'm not even doing a drop. I'm just doing a tiny, tiny bit of green. This is going to help cancel out the pink hue that is in the brown. And then I'm going to do 1 drop of yellow. Mix that together and see how deep it is. All right, that's a little close. I'm going to try to add 1 more drop of yellow to warm it up just a little more. And here is a medium tan color. It's a little off of the picture, however, it's pretty close. So this is the tan that we're going with this time. Now this fondant is holding its shape. I can make the eyes and the nose. So for the nose, I'm going to rip off a piece, and this is another one where you just have to make sure you get the right size. So I may have to make it a little smaller. So see how tiny this piece is. I'm going to roll it into a ball. Then I'm going to take my 2 fingers at the bottom and pinch, and 1 finger at the top and pinch down. It's making a triangle shape, and then I'm going to take both fingers on either side and squeeze it down. So I'm just trying to form it into like a little triangle shape. And put that down on here. And that looks like it's a pretty good size. And I'm going to do the 2 little eyeballs. So again, you don't need too much fondant. See, these are not the same size, so I want to add a little more to this one. All right, that looks good. I could put this on my little cutting board of all the decorations. And now I'm going to get my cake and we can put it all together. All right, so I have my board that has all the pieces on it, my little Rice Krispie guy, and my buttercream, and my picture just for reference so I can keep looking at it to make sure that I'm doing it similar to like I did before. My cake is just out of the refrigerator. The icing is solid. It's not going to get messed up when I do this. I have a video on how I get this little texture on buttercream, and I can link that below. So I have these 8-inch bamboo skewers, and I'm going to put them in the bottom. So 1 goes here and 1 goes a little bit further out. Now I want to make sure I have another skewer here for the head. And I put gloves on because this is just going to get a little messy. So I'm going to start with the body, and I'm going to just get some buttercream on here. Actually, it's easier if you just use your fingers. Wipe it on. And now to get the fur effect, I put my hand down and lift up. And what I want to do is make sure that I'm covering all the Rice Krispies. And it may not all get covered, so once I put it on the cake, I will go back in the end and refine it and cover up any spots that are showing. Perfect. Now I have that done. I'm going to put this back a little bit. I don't want it just in the center. I'm going to put it back towards the back part of the cake. And I'm actually going to put a little bit of buttercream on the bottom, and that's going to help seal it to the cake. Good. Now you can see as I'm handling it, you can see some Rice Krispies start to pop through, and that's okay. We'll go back and we will refine it. Now for the head, I want to have a skewer. I should have cut the skewer a little smaller. So I'm just trimming the end off. Ah! And I wanted to stick it down into the body and leave part of it sticking out so the head can go down on it. Same thing for the head. I'm just grabbing some buttercream, wiping it around the whole thing, all the way on the bottom, because you'll be able to see the bottom part. And once the whole thing is covered, then just start lifting up. So I'm making it look like fur. Good. Holding the skewer in so I can push this head on. Nice. And then push it down. And it's going to seal it to the body. Look at it straight on and make sure that the head isn't hanging off one side, that it's perfectly on here. All right, now let's go to the legs. We're going to build it from the bottom up. So grabbing the left side leg, and again, putting buttercream on the whole thing. So you can see why it's not important that you get the fondant to be the same color as the buttercream because you're going to cover it and you're really just going to see the buttercream, but you do want it to be a similar color because if I put white underneath here, the white would probably show through. So you just want it to be a similar color. Now when I'm putting this on the cake, I don't want to get this color buttercream all over the cake, so I want to try to be neat with it. So I'm going to get behind here and try to get this in the right position, pushing it against the side of the cake and then letting the foot fall down. Now some buttercream got here and I'm going to show you how to clean that up. Same thing for the other foot. I'm pushing this side against the side piece and then letting the foot come down. I'm going to take these gloves off. While this buttercream is still wet, get the belly and put the belly on. So the buttercream is going to let it stick. Got a fresh pair of gloves. And now I'm going to do the arm. So I want to press this against the cake. So I really want to push this in. And I am making a mess. I usually don't, but I guess it's good so I can show you how to clean it up. So I'm trying to press the legs in. And same thing for the arm. So I'm going to start with the left arm and get buttercream all over the whole outside and inside. And this is why I put the belly on, because the arms are going to cover the belly. And I got to turn it so I can see. I'm going to start back here and let it come down and onto the belly. So I could take this shoulder part and push it down. Good. Same thing on the other side. And try to start in the same spot so the shoulders are kind of in the same place so it's even. Now the ears can go on top. So I'm taking the left ear, getting buttercream all over it. Actually, I'm just going to set this down and do the right ear so I can put the ears on at the same time. And just find where it looks even. And that's good. That's all that I need the gloves for right now. Now I'm going to put on the other little pieces. So the inner part of the ear. I'm just going to use my spatula to get a little more buttercream on the front. That way the snout can stick a little better, just in case this started to dry and crust. I have the picture close for reference and trying to place this on the cake. So I don't want it too far down, right? I kind of want it right facing towards me. And I have to put my hands on the back to squeeze it on so it sticks. So I'm going to wash my fingers when I'm done this part. Got a little bit of water on a paintbrush. And I'm going to just get a little bit of water on the back of the nose. Not too much. Because if you put too much water on, it's going to start to slide down. Just enough to make it sticky. And put the nose on. So the nose I'm not doing at the very top. I'm bringing it down just a little bit from the top. So you can still see a little bit of the cream color above the nose. Make sure the buttercream is sticky where I'm going to put the eyes. And take the eyes and try to make them a good distance. So you don't want them too close together, but I want them to touch the top part of the snout. And anywhere that I can see Rice Krispies showing through, I'm just going to add some more buttercream. So I'm pushing the spatula down and lifting it off to get that fur look to it. Actually, this is going to be easier with my fingers. My hands are clean. So where the joints are, the shoulders and the legs, I just want to cover them with buttercream. That's going to really adhere everything together, and it hides the seam. So you can't really see where the leg is. That's why I love this technique. I do it for Elmo and Cookie Monster too. It's just, you don't have to be perfect. It's so easy. You just cover all your imperfections with this buttercream fur. And same thing with the feet. So if I can see any fondant, or I just want to make a little bit more fur texture. Why is it hard for me to talk? I just want to make a little bit more fur texture, just putting my finger down and lifting off. And now to clean off the stinking icing that got everywhere, I have a dry paintbrush and just going to lightly start to brush all of it away. So I'm going to try to get it off dry first, and then I can go back with a wet paintbrush and try to remove any color marks that it may have made. So I'm just wiping it off and then wiping onto a paper towel. I want to get a little more icing down here because there's a little void there. So just taking that dry paintbrush and just tapping it in. And then I'm just going to wet the paintbrush that I was using. And just use the water in here to kind of erase any color that was left on the cake from the icing that got on there. No, he's adorable. Oh, there's some on the ear. Making this paintbrush dry to scrape this off. Actually use this end. How cute is he? So I refrigerate all of my cakes. I'm actually going to be adding a little bit more decorations to this. I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator. The icing is going to solidify and everything is going to just, the ears will be held on, everything will be held on wonderfully. So I'm sticking this back in the fridge and then I will finish decorating it. So here you go. Here is your little teddy bear sitting on top of the cake. Isn't he adorable? I can't. I love this little guy. He's so cute, and it just ended up being one of my most popular designs. These bubbles, like I said before, they are fondant. I have a whole video showing you how I put these on the cake. Gonna put this down. I refrigerate all of my cakes. So I have videos explaining how I refrigerate cakes. Fondant decorations, edible image decorations, buttercream decorations, everything goes into the fridge because it just helps solidify everything, and I just feel like it makes it structurally sound, so it's going to travel really well. I don't know why I'm talking about that right now, but anyway, I feel like somebody might ask me. So this is going to be picked up tomorrow, and I will put it in the refrigerator and box it up and wrap it up in plastic wrap until it's ready to be picked up. So I really love this technique just because it's easy-ish, because you can cover up mistakes with that buttercream fur. I do Elmo and Cookie Monster the same way. I think I have videos on how I do that too, and I can link them below as well. But I think that is it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And you can follow me on my socials, and I have my website. Everything is linked below. Just look in the description. Everything is down there. And if you want to stick around, you can watch these two videos next and hit the subscribe button and the bell if you haven't already. Please like this video if you liked it. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's cake. Have fun. I will see you on the next one. Bye.